Well met. Hello.
Tell me more about yourself. As I said, I am Sir Faldor, first Inquisitor and chosen of Valinor. Is that all? He's reluctant to divulge any more information about himself, but sighs in resignation to your persistence. My father was an Inquisitor, my mother a priestess of Valinor. I was born in Valenza of Zanzibar, many weeks to the west. Even in my earliest memories, I was celebrated as the favorite of the great judge. Expectations laid upon me were obvious. I was to become a paladin myself and uphold the law in the name of my God. I was not happy with the fate that was laid before me because it appeared to me that I had no choice. I grudgingly studied the teachings of Valinor with no intention of knighthood. My parents knew this and we argued often. My closest friend at the time joined the local thieves guild, the group called the Stealth Blades. He joined a band of criminals, but I envied him for the freedom he had to choose and do as he pleased. Many places in Zanzibar are corrupt, and Valinor does not have a strong presence there. Valenza was one such place. I woke up one morning after a row with my parents to discover them dead, murdered by stealth blades. I was taught a lesson that day, but it cost me the lives of my parents. Justice is not a choice. It is a state of being, a reality, an ideal. I can choose to be just, but I cannot define what justice is. So it was with my parents and the stealth blades. I could choose to do what is right and balance an act of injustice, or I can choose to let it stand and let the injustice forever haunt me. I chose to do what is right. There were no inquisitors to help me, for the Valenzan temple was small, yet I sought out the stealth blades nonetheless. It should have been my death, but I discovered the true meaning of being the favorite of Valinor that night. I destroyed the stealth blades, dozens of them. My best friend was the last to fall. Faldor pauses, but his expression remains firm. He has long since accepted his actions. I did what was right that night. Ever since I have used the gifts endowed to me by Valinor in his service. Hmm, You didn't have to kill them all. I admire your ruthlessness. I sort of feel that both are bad choices, but you didn't have to kill them all is more fitting to my character. I had three choices. The first choice was to do nothing and let them free to commit another crime against society. The second choice was to subdue them and submit them to the local militia for imprisonment. Some of them would bribe their way out of prison, the others would break out. Either way, they will find their way back on the streets. The last choice was to ensure that they would never harm another again. I chose the only choice that was just. Hmm, You could have tried to change them. Yeah, this is. I don't really want to argue with that because we, his choice was reasonable. So I'll let it go. Hmm, Tell me about Valinor. He voice is strong and clear as he speaks. Valinor is the god of justice and the great judge. He teaches us the value of justice, of righteousness, and law and order. Every society has rules and laws. Barbarian tribes have simplistic rules where the strong have power over the weak. Civilized societies in Britannica have elected officials to represent the branches of law. Gnomish cities are more complex still. But no matter the complexity, the rules and laws exist. Without them, the society would crumble, and indeed it may never form. However, even the established rules and laws in place, society has predilections toward chaos and disorder. People all will always strive to bend and break the rules that have been laid down so as to benefit themselves. Whether it is a matter of theft or murder, the result is the same. One person has benefited at another's expense. The inquisitors of the great judge oppose these injustices for the betterment of people and society. How do you determine what the meaning of a law is? The rules and laws of a society are determined by the society itself. We do not determine them, we can only interpret and enforce them. Such is the way of the Syrian order. Death was outlawed long before our order ever set foot in the city, but the rule is clearly stated in the doctrines of Syrian law held in Azareth Keep, and so we will enforce it. What if the laws don't make sense? If a regulation in a society did not make sense, the society would either never have formed or the regulation would have been adjusted or removed. It is true that some laws serve more purpose than others, but it is not our place to challenge them. Um, I'll press him a little bit on that. What if the punishment for burglary was death? He shakes his head. Such a law would never exist, and if it did, Ravenor's faithful would not take residence in such a place. Lawmakers are not above the scrutiny of the great judge. A lawmaker can be unjust himself. What makes this faith better than the others? Once you have become enlightened by Valinor, you will understand that justice is an absolute. There is right and wrong. There is only right and wrong. Under the guidance of the great judge, a society can grow and prosper in fairness and peace. No other faith can claim this. The teachings of Valiena would only lead to lust and jealousy. How many crimes have been committed out of passion? The teachings of Azrael would bring chaos and misery. A society founded by war would sentence their own children to their deaths until eventually a stronger enemy destroys them. Mythicans become so blindly bound to magic that they lose all sense of morality in their experiments. Even Hespites, followers of the god of knowledge, are guilty of passing their wisdom to those who would abuse it. But justice is right and wrong. It cannot be twisted to serve greed, power, or corruption. The day will come when everyone will see the truth in Valinor's teachings, and peace will reign from that day forth. Hmm. You claim there is only right and wrong. Uh, in a way, that's true. You could always argue that in cases where you basically have to make a bad choice, where you're forced to do bad things, usually this if the reason on that is because others were not acting justly before you had to make a choice. So in some ways, the decision was never you never did an unjust thing. I don't think I'm explaining it well because you can easily think up scenarios where no matter what you do, like with the kid we saved, who basically either we allow a lot of people to die or we allow the kid and the father to die. There is no well, there are no perfect choices to make. There's always going to be some kind of right and wrong there. Some, no matter which choice you take, some wrong will be done. But in a way, you can either, even with if you go for the greater good, some wrong will come from that. But if the If the father would have tried to act justly, the choice would have never come to that. I'm somewhat interested in his explanation because why does he think everything is only right and wrong? How does he try to explain away the scenarios where wrong has to be done in some way, no matter what option you take? You in some choices you just can't escape it. Correct. There can only be a right or wrong. There will always be those who would argue otherwise, that a middle ground exists. That all choices can only have two results, the expected consequence and an unexpected consequence. One is right, the other is wrong. But if you don't know the consequences of all choices, no, I feel like I can't answer the right questions here. Expected choices can be terrible in both cases, or in all cases. So again, which one of them is right and which one of them is wrong? If they're all a mixture of both, and usually it just divides the good things and bad things to different people or different groups. It's never really good for everything or everyone. So I don't think he's not convincing me with his bullshit at the moment. An unexpected consequence isn't always bad, but it's risky to choose it. While it is true that an unexpected consequence can result in a better than expected outcome, one cannot plan for them. What if you had the power to make decisions that always resulted in an expected consequence? Think about the decisions you made in the last day that did not turn out for the best. What if you made the correct decision? How much better would the last day have been? Would you not gladly sacrifice the benefits of unexpectedly good consequences if you knew that you would never make the wrong decision again? Such is the way of justice. There can only be a right or wrong, and I expected an unexpected consequence. To execute a murderer to ensure that he never kills again is a benefit that greatly outweighs the chance that he will reform to become an asset to society. Faldor wears an expression of unwavering belief in his words. Yeah, he's still not. I think he's intentionally funneling things to options that are not all that confusing in the first place. Two, there are different type of murderers. There are people who murder for the sake of murder, or because it's their job, or because they murder a specific person for very specific reasons. There's every there's a good chance at the very least, I would say very high chance, that quite a lot of killers will not kill again because of the person they killed and the situation surrounding it was something very exceptional. It's not like they just killed a random person or killed someone because they had some kind of a minor argument or something like that. It could have been a very extreme situation. Not saying that the murder was justified even, but it's very likely that that situation will never come up again. So after they pay the consequences of their wrongdoing, it's not exactly, it's rather unlikely that they'll ever be stand on trial for the same reason ever again. So just tagging every murderer as as a repeat offender or possible repeat offender is yeah, it just doesn't convince me at all. Sir Faldor is very unbending man, and I think his justification and logic is questionable at best. But if you don't know the consequences of all choices, it is true that sometimes one is faced with a decision for which all choices will have unknown consequences. In such an instance, there is no motivation for wrongdoing, and therefore there can be no injustice. Right and wrong does not apply in such instances. Yeah, I feel he's not addressing the issues where conflict with his line of thinking could arise. So I, I sort of my respect towards Sir Faldur's strong ethics toward right and wrong is basically non-existent, and I don't really respect him. I think he's a fool, but I do understand it better. Hmm. What is there to do in Syrian? My duties here prevent me from partaking in the city's entertainment. I cannot help you in this matter. By all accounts, you're a man of power and resourcefulness. Being new to this city, you would have an advantage over the Inquisitors in undercover investigations. I offer you your choice of compensation to lend your services to the great judge. Okay? Adventure is reward enough. I just want to do the right thing. I want coins, I want power, I want knowledge. Uh, I feel knowledge is probably the shittiest option, assuming I can ask about my heritage, because uh, the game is gonna not allow me to miss that information no matter what I choose. So it would be incredibly stupid to give up some other reward, in exchange for that. Um, I want to do the right thing. You have the makings of a fine inquisitor. If your performance is satisfactory, perhaps you might consider joining the ranks of Valinor's righteous permanently. No, oh no. We of Valinor's faith must deal with all the serious injustices, and there are unfortunately more injustices than we can resolve at the moment. You may have heard of the most pressing issues already. The citizens have reported many sightings of strange creatures in the city, dark with glowing red eyes. I have never heard of creatures as these have been described, but I believe they may be the result of experiments conducted by the Mystic Circle. Recently, dozens of citizens of Sirion have fallen ill due to contamination of water supply and are now under care of Lady Alorion, the Temple of Valiena. I have delegated this investigation to Sir Nestor. Lastly, we of Valinor's faithful have always been at odds with the Azorites. Their recent transgressions against the cultists have strained our relations even further. Tell me of the Azorites. He shakes his head. The worshippers of Azrael, the god of war, have always been at odds with we of Valinor's faithful. We cannot deny the fact that they do much to protect Syrian from its enemies. They routinely send patrols into the mountains to drive out growing orc and ogre tribes, and they defend the smaller towns from trolls. Yet they are also aggressive and impulsive. Their tactics are an affront to the law and order that we are trying to create. The Azorites have become openly hostile toward the cultists that call themselves the Order of the Obsidian Eye, attacking them in the streets and taking prisoners. They have no just cause to physically attack the cultists no matter how blasphemous their teachings are, and we do not know what they are doing to their prisoners. They are likely being tortured or worse. In addition, their hostilities have only fed the success of the growth of the cult. Many citizens have sympathized with the cultists, believing that the Azorites have grown desperate out of fear and panic. As the cult grows, the influence of the Temple of Valinor weakens. So you see, the actions of the Azerites are not only unjust, but they are negatively affecting those around them. Aren't you worried about the cult? Since the arrival of the Obsidian Eye, they have preached the arrival of a new god who will soon arise to sweep aside the deities of the dead today. They blame Valinor for failing to enforce justice and protect the people of Syrian from theft, murder, and other crimes. Their preaching are lies. If there was a new god, we Inquisitors would have detected this. In addition, it is not Valinor's responsibility to end crime in the world. The Great Judge serves as a teacher of that which is just. Despite the cult's blasphemies, they have committed no crime by Mirian law, and thus their transgressions of the Azerites are unlawful and uncalled for. Why don't you deal with the Azerites? Because probably it'll create fighting, and if the two temples start openly engaging, that's not gonna help the situation at all. Okay, what options do we have? The Azerites have not always been so difficult to deal with. Our problems came from their new leader, the half-dark elven female Tianara. She assumed leadership of the temple 2 years ago, and she is everything that is wrong with their faith. As the chosen of Azaril, she is strong, rash, and foolish, a dangerous combination. She is young and inexperienced in the politics of leading a temple in such a large city. Well, what do you expect me to do about her? It is not my place to decide who leads the Azerites. However, their mistreatment of cultists affects not only the cult, but it misguides the citizens of Syrian, and it affects us as well. Violence against unarmed cultists is not a solution. There was physical evidence that the Azerites were torturing prisoners, or if you can locate their hidden prison, there should be enough pressure from the people of Syrian to stop their transgression and remove Tianara from leadership. Right. Tell me about the strange creatures. Mystic Circle Enclave lies in the environs with the Sanctum of Mythicus. This group's arcane experiments have been notorious for their dangerous and unethical nature. Under Elder Archmage Arciferus Glen, there was a time when the Enclave closed the Sanctum to the public and performed cruel experiments on magical beasts of all kinds. Unicorns, hippocampuses? Really? Lycanthropes, and many others. Several years ago, a wyvern escaped into the streets, destroying many buildings and injuring many citizens in the bazaar before it was recaptured by the Enclave. Before that, many believed they released some lizard creatures into the sewers for experimentation. There was never sufficient evidence to bring the Enclave to admit responsibility. Um, what is the purpose of these experiments? Their purpose is the same for that of all mages: power. There are many magical creatures in the world that possess powers the civilized races do not possess. The Mystic Circle attempts to harvest these for their own purposes. A learned Archmage can use harvested components for magical creatures to make any number of spells and craft many kinds of equipment, the purpose for which varies by the Archmage. You think Arciferus is responsible for the creatures? No, I do not believe Arciferus is involved. He is no longer a part of the Mystic Circle Enclave. Arciferus changed his direction many years ago and not only stopped his experiments, he opened the sanctum to the public. I do not know the reason for his change of direction, though members of the spellcaster community may speculate why. Arciferus was recently succeeded by a new leader, Sigmund Spectroris. Sigmund is the chosen of Mythicus and has the potential to affect great evil should he choose to walk that path. He is dark and morose. Who knows what evils haunt his mind? A few weeks ago, citizens began reporting sightings of dark humanoid creatures with glowing red eyes in abandoned alleyways and dark buildings. Sigmund may have resumed experiments on magical beasts. These reports of strange beasts began approximately the same time Sigmund had the enclave gates locked, just as Arsip Ferris once performed experiments on creatures behind locked gates years ago. It appears that there is more at work than coincidence here. We do have just cause to investigate them if we could find a way in, but our suspicions alone do not give us the right to breach their gates. If you can discover that what the Mystic Circle is doing behind their gates, report to me immediately. Right, I should be able to report immediately.
Well met. Hello.
I have this discovery on Syrian's troubles. Tell him about the Mystic Circle. So, the Mystic Circle was performing unethical experiments under Sigmund's direction. I pity those creatures they were working on, though I have never seen anything as you described them. Your description of them matches the description of the creatures cited by Syrian citizens. Dark, humanoid with glowing red eyes. It is possible some of these creatures escaped the enclave or were released into the streets. But what of Sigmund? What of his fate? We fought, but he escaped. Sir Faldor sighs and shakes his head. That is most unfortunate. Sigmund has proven that he has no respect for life, not for the creatures he experiments on, or nor for the people he endangers when these creatures roam the city. He hungers for power in a way that drives men to become liches. As long as he exists, he is a threat to society. Sigmund has left the enclave, so his experiments should cease for now. But it is likely he will be continuing to perform unethical experiments elsewhere. We cannot help that at this point. I only hope that Sigmund's gone and the experiments temporarily halted. The city will no longer be troubled by these creatures. His logic is absolutely ridiculous. We have every reason to believe that the creatures were captured for experimentations from the streets. I don't think I want to work with Sir Faldor anymore because he makes no fucking sense, and sooner or later, I mean, he basically has a confirmation bias in a way. He doesn't look at the situation objectively. He has preconceived opinions or conclusions about these people, and everything he encounters he sees as more evidence for his conclusions that he made before he actually took a look at the evidence. So he's very dangerous. Uh, I think I'd like to talk to the Azerite leader at least first about the capture of the cultists, not try to find them and report to Sir Faldor. You place yourself in great danger to put an end to these experiments and to bring this information to light. You deserve a reward for your efforts as a token of Valenor's faith. I have a helmet that will protect you from deceit and deception. I also have a tome that the Keeper's collection that can increase your knowledge of combat. Alternatively, I can dispense a sum of 20,000 gold. Uh, I'll take the helmet. Take this in good faith and know that there is more should you continue to aid Velenor's cause. Now that you have proven yourself capable of supporting Velenor's cause, there is another assignment at the Azerites. We need someone to arrest a group of Azerite outcasts. I'm not interested, sorry. I want to see the store. I need to identify some items. This is the Vampire Belt. Immunity to Death Magic and some regeneration at the cost of constitution. Gloves of an ogre. Yes, there are gloves of an ogre. Vampire Fang, +4 enchantment, steals life on hit. This is what I wanted. This is the most interesting item potentially. Tunic of the Vampire Lord. +6 armor bonus, it's a clothing piece. Vulnerability to Divine and Fire. On hit, Vampiric Touch level 4, regeneration +2. So it basically is better armor than Percy has currently. If someone hits her, it will drain life from them and heal her. And it has natural regeneration on top of that. That would be great for a monk. Rather restoration. That's nice. Right. Mind affecting immunity. I'll take it. Amulet of natural armor. +4. This would be better on anyone else. Yeah. Right, extra strength for him. Like what? Death magic immunity, level ability drain immunity. I'm sort of thinking of taking this for myself. It's very tough for me to try to dodge all that shit. Well, I have this. I can take the belt, and I'm not exactly. Damage resistance isn't exactly great anyway. You can do a switch here. And my constitution is terrible. The boots will sort of neutralize the negative effects on that. And but I want the death magic immunity. The high level casters can basically constantly spam some instant death ability. I need to be protected from it. Other natural armor. Japanese ring, but +4 deflection. +2. I think I have better than +2. Pretty sure I got up some kind of protection ring at some point. +4. This just has charisma, right? And black looks good on her too. Extra saving throws. I'm not sure if I want this, but at the same time, it's either that or the armor class increase, and she can use the armor class increase more than I can. Right. Still need to identify one item.
Well met. Hello.
Where is it? There. Sling of Meteors. Infinite ammunition, fire ammunition, plus 1d6 fire damage. Attack bonus 4, fire resistance 10, vulnerability to cold. It's not a bad weapon. Right. Ah, that took a long time. Right. As far as I'm concerned, I'm done with these guys. They're a bit too extreme and unyielding.
Let's chat a bit.
Okay.
Hello there.
What's the matter, Evanine? I've been wondering, do you believe in fate? I've been asked that before. And? To be honest, I don't know. That's probably the best answer you can give, seeing as how we can never truly know whether fate exists or not. I think I believe in fate, whether our fates have been written by the gods or by someone else. I think everything that happens to us does so because it was meant to be. Our original destination was not Mir. I was actually going to Zanzibar, but fate decided that we were to meet again, so Southport was locked down when I arrived, and my delay allowed you to catch up with me. Though for what reason I don't know. Yet even if our destinies have been written, I believe there is still reason for us to strive to reach our goals. It is the very fact that we don't know our fate that makes it worthwhile to try. Perhaps I was never destined to find a place to belong to, or belong in. Perhaps when I lost my happiness with the loss of my parents, I was never destined to find it again. But as long as I keep trying, I give myself hope. Hope that one day I'll succeed. I know you'll find happiness one day, Evanine. Evanine gives you a slight smile. Thank you, Roland. Thank you for being supportive and for listening to me. Ah. We didn't really talk to this one. I do want to check Montedor's armor, because there was some kind of 100,000 gold piece armor on sale here. 7 base armor plus 4 plus 2 strength. I think the armor they sell here is better, but that would eat up all of my cash.
So, we meet at last.
I'd like to talk about you. Well, as you can see, I have a blended heritage. My father was a human barbarian in the service of Azrael. My mother was a dark elven huntress, and the fairest maiden in the South Sienna, a land of sandy plains in the southwest of Istar. There are no established borders in the South Sienna, and to this day there are conflicts among barbarian tribes to determine who has power over a region of land. At the time, my father was chief of the strongest tribe in that part of the world. So it was that he conquered a rival tribe one day, and as the leader of his people he had his choice of females as the spoils of war. He chose my mother to be his wife. What was their relationship like? My father was nothing but a savage, and he forced himself upon my mother every day for the rest of her life. She was his conquered slave, and although she was strong and she hated him, she was not strong enough to resist him. Despite her resistance, I was born in the second year of her slavery. My earliest memories were of my father beating my mother down and forcing himself upon her. I watched it all. Your childhood must have been horrible. I was the daughter of the chief of the tribe, yet I was also born from a conquered slave. a dark elf for that matter. Most people in this part of the world resent us for atrocities committed hundreds of years ago. I was treated well enough in the presence of my father, but I was pushed and kicked aside without him. Not that I considered myself safe around my father. He desired a son, so he hated me. My mother did not hate me, but neither could she love me because who I was, the daughter of the man she hated most in the world. But life was not horrible. It simply was. I had nothing to compare my life to. When I was 5 years old, my mother could no longer bear her slavery and stabbed my father in the heart while he slept. He was chief of his tribe for a reason, and did not die quite quickly. He woke up and saw my mother standing on top of him, holding the blade that pierced him. He reached up and began to strangle her. They died together. I saw it all. Hmm. Sorry to hear that. I'm not the type of woman who needs pity and comfort, though I suppose I should appreciate your sincerity. I never loved my parents, but neither did I hate them. Without my father or successor, the tribe quickly fell apart through infighting. I was cast into the plains of the South Siena, where I was captured by another tribe and put into slavery for 10 years. I was eventually sold to a man in Thernopolis, the largest city in Istar. I escaped and spent years on the streets among people with a deep hatred of dark elves, using my looks to survive in a city ruled by the underworld and its rival factions. One day I tried to swindle the leader of a criminal faction. He was too strong and overwhelmed me, but as he tried to take advantage of me, I was rescued by the High Warlord of the Azrael's Napoleon Temple. He saw in me something that nobody else did, and submitted me as a temple acolyte. I admired Azrael's teachings immediately. It was everything that I had endured growing up. What was he like? The High Warlord was by no means a knight in shining armor. He didn't rescue me for the sake of saving my life. He simply had a vendetta against the other man. He was a bitter and impatient leader, and his expectations were unrealistic even for me. He punished for the smallest of mistakes, and his punishments were physical and severe. 2 years ago I left Annapolis to assume leadership of this temple. She pauses, then smirks mischievously. I know so much about me now, but I know so little about you. Perhaps we could continue this conversation in privacy. Hmm? Uh, I'd like to ask you something else. Tell me about Azrael's faith. Azrael is the god of war. He teaches the value of strength, resilience, and courage, and the need to be in constant pursuit of such qualities. He has no respect for the weak and timid. There are two important tenets to my faith. First, power is in a state of transition because the strong will always attempt to seize it from the weak. Second, no matter how powerful one becomes, there is always someone stronger. As an Azurite, I believe in the importance of the constant pursuit of strength so that I can be prepared when a stronger opponent tries to take advantage of me. Then strength is the only good attribute? No, not at all. Strength comes in many forms, not just brawn and muscle. Perhaps you've heard of the Akkadian swordmaster Miura, the greatest warrior in the history of this world. His strength is in the swiftness and accuracy of his blade, not in the force in which he swings it. The legends speak of the Archmage Yang as the hobbling old man, wrinkled and grey, yet he mastered magic as no other has, and could bind a dragon with a single spell. brawn, agility, knowledge, conviction, charm. These are all strengths, and there are many more. I admire them all. So Azrael condones war and violence. Azrael doesn't condone violence, bloodshed, and the loss of life, although there are many who think he does, even among my own Azarites. The true purpose of my faith is to prevent this. If everyone was strong, there would no longer be incentive for one to harm another. But strength must be used responsibly. My strength allows me to defend myself from those who would try to take advantage of me, but it doesn't mean I should abuse it. One of the most important concepts of my faith is that power corrupts. Learning when to apply strength is just as important as learning how to attain it. What makes this faith better than others? Nothing. I never said that my faith was better than any other. To do so would be disrespectful to the followers and the deities of the other faiths. I do believe that each faith is suited to a different type of person. I've never had family to rely on. I'm being used by those who call themselves friends. I've had to endure hatred for my heritage, greed for my possessions, lust for my body. Yet I survived. I survived by turning my weakness into strength. I become independent from my abandonment. I trained to defend myself. I use my looks as a weapon. My life would have led me to Azrael even if I was not his chosen. By contrast, I have no use for Valiena as I don't believe in love, and I've endured far too much injustice to believe in the blind righteousness of Valinor. Fate is what you make of it. Hmm. 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 What does this temple do for Syrian citizens? You sound as though I owe the citizens something, Roland. I don't. They choose to worship Azrael on their own volition. Nevertheless, the citizens see my warlords as protectors. I sent regular patrols into the mountains to drive away encroaching orc and ogre tribes. My patrols are responsible for keeping cave trolls away from many local communities. Doesn't this mean you're defending the weak? While it's true I have little respect for the weak, it doesn't mean I would abandon them in times of need. A rescued citizen can be very generous with tithes required for temple upkeep. In some cases the weak can earn my respect as well. A newborn baby boy is dependent and helpless, yet I would not abandon him knowing that with nurture and education he may grow up to be a strong and healthy warlord. Hmm. Uh, is there anything of interest in Syrian? There are many forms of entertainment in this city. Were I not so preoccupied, I would gladly show you the sights. She smiled suggestively. Uh, I'd be happy to take part in an adventure. I like your spirit, Roland. Normally I don't concern myself with the events of this city. The Valenurians meddle enough for the both of us. But two issues have caught my attention. I'm currently investigating the appearance of the cultists and the reappearance of an old enemy of mine. Hey, tell me about your old enemy. My position in this city has its benefits and its drawbacks. One such drawback is I have to operate within the bounds of the law, in public at least. My warlords and I draw too much attention to do anything about without public scrutiny. Many years ago, before I became an Azarite, I had dealings with a slaver named Ilzabir. This man has come to Syria now, and has taken residence in the slums. I've approached Sir Faldor about him, but he won't act upon Elsevier without evidence. He is currently in the slave trade, and neither will he investigate a man without just cause. Elsevier claims he has long since reformed, but I don't believe him. Slave rings more Slave rings move quickly, and he is an expert slaver, so he will surely be gone before I can find incriminating evidence against him. I propose the quickest solution. His death. I need only his sword as proof of the deed. Why do you care so much about his death? Fionaura's face darkens as she recalls some distant memories. He was a cruel slaver. He also deals in child slavery, an act I'm particularly sensitive given my personal history with it. Hmm. Uh, well, I'm not going to kill a man who may be innocent. I assure you he hasn't reformed. I encourage you to find evidence against him, but he hides his activities well. He has been trading slaves for decades and has never been caught. I can at least investigate. If we find no reason to think he is a slaver anymore, we don't act. So what about the cultists? Arriving as black-robed fanatics a few weeks ago, they call themselves the Order of the Obsidian Eye, and they are preaching the rise of a new god who will remove the deities that are popular today, including Azrael. Some of the citizens of this city believe in the cultists and have converted. The loss of a few witless citizens is of no concern, but more and more convert each day. They have strength by the hundreds now. I would like to discover who the leader of the cult is, and the location of their hidden temple. My warlords have been unsuccessful in their research thus far. Right, what did I ask? I should be going now. Yanara scans Montador up and down for a moment, and for the first time you see his skin flush a deep red. Yanara smiles mischievously and leans in close to whisper something to him, then turns away. Montador has a leery-eyed expression on his face as he walks away. Strong and sultry. My kind of woman. Right.
So we meet at last.
Temple supplies. Yeah, Azrael's master domain. For spore strength, it's equal. It's a little bit better armor than the Montador has. The extra base armor class is one higher, but also has a higher strength bonus. Not sure if worth 100,000 gold pieces though. Still, it's one of the. I'll probably buy it at some point. I mean, what the hell am I doing with the money anyway? Might as well spend it. Hmm. She's viewing me as favorable, so I'm getting rid of some of this crap. I don't particularly care how much money we're gonna get from this. 165,000. That would allow us to buy the armor. Right. I'm not selling, even trying to get rid of his basic armor. Right. I've I think I've increased his strength at least by 4 with the item upgrades. It's 28, so 9 extra bonus in total. Very nice. Now we've done talking with everyone. Excellent. Um, Might as well talk to with companions too, just to get everything out of the way. So there shouldn't be any larger
What
discussions I
do
have
you
to have.
want?
What do you think we should... tell me about yourself. I want to see if there are new topics or... I mean, I know who he is. I'm not going to redo the... Okay, did you ever go to the Northlands? You've been busy with Edinburgh's people, but not that busy. I haven't left your company since we met, unfortunately. The reason I wanted to visit the Northlands was to test my mettle against the frigid cold and to clash. Yeah, I've done with this. Um, he's not telling anything new. What do you think we should do now? The Valenurians want us to find and investigate the Azerite prison. As much as I like a good fight, I prefer to have the Azerites as allies. We've meddled in their affairs enough, don't you think? Yeah, I sort of think. I find the Azerite leader to be more reasonable. More in line with my chaotic nature. And it's not like she's evil in any way. What do you... No.
Hello there.
What do you think we should do now? Well, we're supposed to find the Azerite prison, but it could be anywhere. He pauses in thought. Lady Tianara may seem young and brash, but I think she's wiser than she lets on. Valenurians are so rigid that they'd probably suspect the prison is somewhere far away. If I wanted to hide a prison from them, I'd put it somewhere obvious. Maybe even the temple district. But it doesn't look like we can talk about any real subject with these,
Greetings to you.
which actually I prefer. I prefer that they just tell us at some point that they want to discuss something. It's I haven't I haven't had to have a single long discussion with the companions. Ooh, prepare me for the next battle. Prepare yourself for the next battle. Ooh, it's a new option. So you can buff before the fight starts. The benefit would be that Percy, especially in the well, in lots of fights, she starts by buffing herself first, or alternatively not buffing herself up or at all, leaving herself vulnerable. So if we see a fight is coming, we could order her to do self-buffing before starting it. What do you think we should do? I would like to visit the temple district. I know I'm not welcome in most holy places, but I feel drawn to them somehow. Okay. Do you think of me? You have been most kind and fair to me, unlike my former masters. I feel more like a companion than a slave to you. She hesitates for a moment, uncertainty evident in her pretty features. Am I your friend? Uh, I'd like to be more than that, more than friends, Percy. You, you do? Uh, yeah, I think I'm falling in love with you. For the first time since you've known her, she offers you a voluntary smile. You feel your heart skip a beat. I I do not think I understand love fully, and perhaps I never will, but everything I understand of it is reflected in you. I think I'm falling in love with you too, Roland. Though my bonds to you remain, I no longer feel like your slave, and you as my master. I would I would be happy to be with you as long as you still love me. Hmm. I've never been happier. Right. Let us finish this adventure together. Then we can fully explore this emotion called love. Right. Um, whatever. It's not like there has been. I feel it's hard to say that there has been enough interaction to justify saying that you love Percy, but at the same
By my
time,
direction, attack!
I feel like you almost would have to build an adventure around that. Cut down on companions or put a huge effort in the complexity of the interaction to make it seem somewhat plausible. So I don't mind that. This is more or less what you can expect from a AAA producer of a game too. You, what the conversation about what doesn't have to be that it's a good dialogue about two people being in love. What it needs to be that the game has to have some way of for you to signal to it that you have an interest in pursuing that line of interactions. The fact that it's somewhat clunky is irrelevant. Right. He can be the slaver can be found in the slums. Severe. Right. I think I'll go there and end it there. It's not that many places he
Hello.
can. Ah, they're on strike again. For fuck's sake. What is it this time? We're in fairly good shape. Minister Solomon.
My greetings.
Well dressed and regal, the man before you is obviously a person of importance. His voice is patient yet firm. My greetings, Roland. I have heard much about you. Who are you? I'm Lord Solomon, Minister of Religion and Foreign Affairs for the Mirian Ministry. I serve King Tane the Fourth directly. How do you know who I am? I'm by no means in the business of information gathering, but I work with those who are. Your name has already reached the ears of some important people in Syrian, including those of King Tane. I know you are a recent arrival in the city, and Sir Faldor tells me you are a champion in Britannica, though the details of your exploits up north have not reached us yet. Your accomplishments in Syrian speak for themselves. I know the Mirian ministry has developed a reputation of neglectfulness and irresponsibility, yet there are still those among us who remember that we serve the people as well as the throne. I like to think I'm one of those. As such, I like to nurture relationships with those who champion causes for the greater good. People like Sir Faldor, people like you. I'm just trying to do the right thing. Then your results are no accident, as your motivations seem pure. Azaric Hall is where the Mirian Ministry and King Thane meet to conduct governmental affairs. It is normally closed to the public, but I would like to extend a formal invitation for you to visit. You are under no obligation to do so, and should you visit, you will not be put to work. We have enough guards laying dormant for such matters. I simply wish to foster a relationship with you. He glances at the sky. It is late, and I have much work to do. Zrikol lies to the east of the bazaar, beyond the Viscount estates. Please feel free to visit whenever you have time. It has been an honor to meet you, Rowan. So an invitation to go to the eastern parts. I had already forgot they even exist. We had some kind of robbery to do there anyway. For the brothel matron. Maybe we should visit there now. I mean, we don't have to do necessarily anything there, but just to basically unlock the maps, scout them out, see what's there. He says he doesn't have a job for us, but maybe he does. Viscount Rude. Sucks. These. Not sure why these maps exist. It seems to be a transition between two areas. That's it. We should have a map of this area. Rickshaw, Bertrand's residence, Regis residence, Viscount Club. Evanine? Yes, Percy. What kind of men do you like? Evanine arches an eyebrow at her. What do you want to know? I'm just curious. Well, I've never really given it much thought. I suppose he has to be compassionate and thoughtful, like a man with a good heart. Does he have to be handsome? Evanine gives her the slightest smile. Well, it wouldn't hurt, but he certainly doesn't have to be handsome. I'd take a kind ugly man over a mean handsome man any day. Yeah, the problem with that is that that's a false comparison. You can easily skip the kind ugly man and find a perfectly handsome kind man too. It's not one or the other. Why? Because looks don't last forever, Percy. Yeah, I've seen some very fine looking women that are over 50 or 60, so I mean, if you put some effort in it, it lasts for a surprisingly long time. Even, I mean, really old people who take care of themselves a little bit, they still look just fine. So it lasts for a long fucking time. Well, your looks probably will, but mortal men and women eventually lose their looks. So no matter how handsome or beautiful a mortal is, the pleasures of the flesh will only be temporary. Yeah, but I don't want to argue with that. It's what she thinks that's the important part. But personality doesn't change unless the person wills it to change. Well, that's not true either. I mean, if work treats you like shit, your personality will change without your willing it. So it's not true either. A good person will always be a good person by nature. He pauses for a moment before continuing. What kind of men do you like, Percy? I'm a succubus. I like all men. But don't you have a preference? If you could have any man in the world, and you probably could, what kind of man would you prefer? Percy considers Ebony's question for a long time, as though she's never been given a choice before. I like the kind of men you like. Someone who would treat me like a real person. That's a good choice, Percy, and don't worry. If we ever fell for the same man, I won't compete with you. I like you, Ebony. You're so kind to me, like the man I desire. That's nice, Percy. Right, so Azure Keep is at the end of this.
Hello.
More cultists. Always more cultists. I'm surprised I haven't encountered any of the creatures. Let's see what the minister wants with us. And now we have a quick travel point here too, so that's nice. Pikemen, are you any good? No. Well, in comparison to me, they probably are just fine. Do these lead to anywhere? Training yard? Barracks? Don't look like these go anywhere though. Still, I do want to take advantage of the fact that I have the luxury of being able to scout and introduce these areas, so if we need to function here later on, I'd like to know where we want to go. Yeah, both sides are closed areas and they have maybe 3 to 4 barracks in them, that's all. They don't go anywhere. I think they're there for show mostly. As I recall. A lot of shitty soldiers. Throne room. Contain Captain Agaleth. Mr. Solamin.
My greetings.
The Minister of Religion and Foreign Affairs greets you as you approach. Ah, Roland. Welcome to Azuric Hall. I'm glad you decided to visit. Tell me about yourself. Officially, I'm the Minister of Religion and Foreign Affairs. My duties are twofold. Firstly, I govern the religions of Syrian. As you know, the city has many faiths, and Syrian's political importance in Istar makes it a popular place for high-ranking figures in various faiths to reside in. All of these competing faiths can make a great deal of tension, however, as the Azarites and the Valenurians have proven time and again. Regardless of their power, the faiths still abide by the laws of Mer. As Minister of Religion, I advise King Tane personally on these laws to keep the various faiths in order. What about your other duties? As a Minister of Foreign Affairs, it is also my duty to negotiate with other lands. I'm responsible for maintaining our relations with the various city-states of Zanzibar, the Iron Mountain, Ivory Hall, and even Britannica and Al-Qaeda. I'm not so vain so as to believe that I am solely responsible for Mer's relations with the rest of Arterra, of course. There are many other ministers who have more important roles with foreign nations. But though I may not directly deal with military relations, trade, or other such important foreign affairs, it is my duty to delegate these responsibilities to the other ministers. Okay. Tell me about Syrian's politics. Syrian's politics are tied directly to the politics of the whole of the Mer. King Tane IV rules the entire land. For obvious reasons, it would be impossible for one man to rule so much land, and that is where the Mirian Ministry comes in. Ministry is a group of several dozen individuals, each of whom have their own unique responsibility. For example, I'm the minister. So I govern the religion and foreign relations for King Tane. Minister Welton is responsible for trade and commerce. As such, he deals with the laws and taxation of many merchant guilds and their members. Mr. Hamphian is responsible for Mer's defense, so all things related to the military might of this land go through him. Captain Agalith of the Syrian Guard and Captain Oraxis of the Ramadans report directly to him. How each minister delegates his or her duties is different. All ministers report directly to King Tane. What do you think of the king? He lowers his voice. Confident that nobody is in earshot, he continues. You ask because you know full well what King Tain's reputation in Syrian is. He took the throne a dozen years ago, barely out of adolescence. His ancestors had laid such a solid foundation for him that he was born into great power and luxury without having ever tried. Both of his parents died young and he has no immediate relatives, so he has no role models. At his age, he should have taken a queen to start a family, yet he is content to travel all over Arterra using his kingship to impress women, to whom he has nothing more than short affairs with. He has not stepped foot past the Viscount estate in 4 years. He is so out of touch with his people that he has no idea what they think of him, nor would he care. The ministry has taken after him. Why should they care when their king won? What do you think of the ministry? He sighs. It's no secret that the ministry's reputation has been tarnished from the last dozen years or so neglect of our duties. Unfortunately, many of our ministers have forgotten that we serve the people as well as the throne. 50 years ago, we fought a war with the barbarian tribes of Arterra in the south. Shortly after, trouble to the east shut down the Silk Shores, which caused prices for certain goods to get thrown off balance. People revolted in the streets. Since then, Myr has had no troubles to speak of. No war, no trade embargoes, nothing to force the ministers into action. This has led to a state of complacency. Basically, the ministry has forgotten what it is to rule people. Not all of us are like this. I still like to think that I work for the betterment of the people of Syrian. However, I am in the minority. Right. I wanted to leave the conversation. I guess we have to introduce ourselves to the king, maybe to the Captain Egeleth.
What do you want?
The strength and skill of this powerful-looking man is obvious, but he also has the distant gaze of one who has long since given up caring about his work. He looks you over disdainfully. So you are the one Minister Solomon was talking about. Who are you? You can call me Captain Egeleth, as in Captain of the Syrian Guard. Though whatever petty accomplishments you made to impress Solomon won't impress me so easily. Tell me about Syrian's defenses. That seems like an odd question. Why would I care? Why aren't you policing the citizens? I've relegated those responsibilities to my commanders. Wherever they are, I have far more important things to do than to deal with petty crimes. I don't want to agitate him for nothing. I might criticize him for his lack of handling his duties, but well, he's not gonna give a flying fuck about it. So, can I ask you about Syrian politics? No, you can't. I'm not here for idle banter. Why are you here? What about Syrian's defenses? That is classified information, as in you're not important enough to know. Goodbye then. Can I go? Right. King. Let's talk to him. We'll probably get the same description anyway. The man before you is clothed in the finest silk and velvet robe you have ever seen, laced with a gold trim that matches the thin gold and jewel-encrusted circlet on his head. His hair is neatly brushed, his eyebrows perfectly trimmed, and he bears an expression that is simultaneously arrogant, spacious, and bored. He's only a few years older than you. He ignores you as you approach, focusing his attention on Percy instead. Who is this gorgeous creature I see? You must be an angel. I am a succubus, the opposite of an angel. I don't know what a succubus is, but I'd kiss one any day. He turns his attention to Evanine. And who is this devilishly beautiful creature next to you? My name is Evanine, my king. Evanine bows politely. My, you are well-mannered for a commoner. How would the two of you like to have dinner in the royal hall tonight? I so tire of the company of old stodgy ministers. We're honored that you'd have our company, my king, but I'm afraid we have business elsewhere, outside Syrian, in the Ivory Hall. I see. Well then, I can't rightfully force residents of another nation to stay now, can I? He finally turns his attention to you. You may approach, commoner. Whatever business you have, make it quick, for as much as you can imagine, a king has many important affairs to deal with. Wait a minute, you're the adventurer Solomon was talking about, aren't you? The one making big news in Syrian. Now, did you have business with me or not? Right, tell me about yourself. This is a question he might actually answer. Surely you jest. Everybody knows I'm King Tane the Fourth. What about Mir's politics? Well, I'd rather not. Speak to Solomon about them. He likes that kind of conversation. I have other important things to deal with. What about Mir's history? Nothing you can't find in a library or something, I'm sure. In fact, I'm sort of with King Tane on this. I can't imagine going to another person and tell me about the history of your country or city. Like, just fucking Google it. I'd like to take my leave now. You seem like the wealthy sort who's traveled quite a bit. What do you think of this robe? Is it too purple? Well, considering it's the same color as my purple robe, I can't in good conscience say it's too purple. I think it looks quite nice. You think so? I think it's too much purple and not enough gold, personally. I hear blue is the popular color in Valencia these days. I haven't been there myself in several months. The king must be in style with the rest of the world. Oh, and you have my permission to leave? He dismisses you with a wave. Right. He seems like a follower rather than a leader. Very entitled.
I greet you.
My greetings.
Right, and I'll hold my ass toward the quick travel point and leave it at that. We're going after the slaver, but since we were doing talking this time again, might as well do most of the talking. I think we have visited pretty much every major location in person now. Talk with the companions too. Talk with about the fates. So I can't see us having any major conversation pieces coming anytime soon that we would have to deal with. So we can focus on doing things and adventuring from this point on. I don't think the king is going to be king for too long. He's been painted by as a useless sack of shit, pretty much. He's not going to be a good king anymore at this point. He should have basically been educated and groomed earlier on, and now he would be more or less able to fill the role. Or at least grow into it fairly quickly. He doesn't seem to give a shit. So sooner or later, either the ministers are going to put someone else in his place, or someone else is going to take his position. That's pretty obvious. Not sure if it's... would have been sort of unsure whether it has anything to do with us, but since we got the invitation from the ministers, it seems like the game wants us to be tied to that in some way. So I think something is going to happen there sooner or later. Right. He should be here. I'm not sure if in the west slums or east slums. Definitely not. There was a slug infested area I didn't investigate in the east slums. I did go everywhere else. So they could be in the Mary on Tap Inn. Certainly, yeah. I feel this is the more likely option. Although there's the North Environs. No, it was definitely the slums. Uh, I think this is a more likelier option because the other one is for really poor people, and he's not exactly a commoner living in some kind of shithole. Although the other inn did have a weird door that we couldn't open, and it was protected by magic. And if they are trying to operate in a hidden place, the Eastern Slum is pretty much the best place they could find, I think. Either way. Nothing here, but there's the stairs up, and I don't think I've ever been there. There he is. Fairly good, with a higher ranking wizard, what looks to be either a warrior or a cleric. That's the wizard's familiar and maybe a rogue. No, Tars is the Stormlord, so she would be a cleric. Wizard cleric, probably a fighter. Yeah.